Here we are again. Was that the imaginary sunset? I like the shirt. Hey, just so you know, so for everyone who did contribute and donate, thank you. I appreciate it. And whoever voted, we raised almost $10,000 for Junior Achievement of South Florida, which was amazing. That just was an amazing enough. And out of all 12 different guys in the different charities, we came in third.
Oh, so, snap.
I'll take it. $10,000 towards teaching kids financial literacy, entrepreneurship, and work readiness. I'm all about it. Amazing. Thank you.
Hell yeah, dude. Well, we got a big old show for everybody today. We're going to pick up where we left off last time, talking some fantasy booking. You've got a couple of interesting convention stories that you had a convention over the weekend. Yeah. And then I'm gonna peel the curtain back and throw caution to the wind, Chaz, because today is the birthday of my spirit animal, my wishful life partner, my hero, my idol. We'll get to that at the end of the show. But first, I posed a question and then raked your eyes before you could answer last time.
Yeah, poked in the eyes. I felt it.
Yeah, poked, raked, the thumb, all of it. How you can see right now is beyond me. But Chaz, I asked you if you could fantasy book a match for the Headbangers, who would your opponents be? What would the match be? I mean, obviously, ideally, it would be at a WrestleMania. So I want your tag fantasy booking. And then one that I didn't prep you for is I want to follow it up with a singles booking. If Chaz Warrington, a.k.a. Beaver Cleavage, a.k.a. Headbanger Mosh, all of it.
I heart Beaver.
By the way, I perused your Pro Wrestling Tees shop. There's a couple of shirts on there I'd never be able to wear on the air, but they are so dope. Guys, head on over to Pro Wrestling Tees and get yourself some exclusive Headbangers merch. They got shirts on WWE Shop. I just ordered a shirt from Hot Topic, by the way.
Nice. That's one of my favorite ones out of the new ones. It's funny, when we were in WWE back in the day, we were never in Hot Topics. Now that we have the nostalgia deal, we're in Hot Topics. But and I'm just kind of showing off two undefeated gimmicks I have today: Beaver Cleavage and the Sisters of Love. Still undefeated. But anyway, fantasy booking. So we were actually supposed to wrestle this tag team on a show, and then COVID happened.
Oh.
And COVID happened. Obviously, nothing happened. So it didn't happen. And the cool part about it was, one of the cooler things Glenn did was he didn't tell me. I just knew we had a show. And, we usually don't worry about who we're working on the show. And, you kind of just go, and whoever it is, you figure it out. But Glenn knew who it was, but he purposely did not tell me because he knew how excited I would have been. And it's Demolition. So that would be my dream match, Demolition. And I have these here because they matches. Where's the other one? Oh, hold on. Wasn't fully prepared. It kind of matches this one, the WSW.
Yeah, I need those.
So I bought that so I can have them sign it. And I also have the Powers of Pain, but we got to wrestle them.
I was going to say, you wrestled them.
We wrestled them. So, yeah, so we were actually supposed to work Demolition in a match, and then COVID happened, and then obviously the match didn't happen, which was pretty disappointing to me. But the coolest part is we run into them at conventions and autograph appearances and things like that, and they've become friends.
That's awesome.
And one of the coolest part is and it's funny because now this will tie back into Powers of Pain, is Bill Eadie and Terry the Warlord for holidays will send me a text. Happy Thanksgiving, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, hope everything's great, can't wait to see you again, and all that stuff. And then it goes back to, hold on.
By the way, did you get them? Because you made a note when we came off the air last week.
And then there's this.
Oh.
So that was Squared Circle Expo last year. the cool part is Demolition and Powers of Pain were doing a photo op, just those two tag teams. So I heard about it, and I said to Glenn, I go, let's go. So we ran down, and we jumped in, and we got the picture with them. So there's only 6 of those pictures printed. So they gave one to each of us. So we're back at our table, and I'm so excited over this stupid picture. Then all of a sudden, it got sent down from Warlord and Barbarian, where they signed their names. And they said, hey, we want you to sign this also. Then it was like light bulb went off. We all got together and signed all of them. So there's 6 of those pictures where we all signed them, and that's it. There's only 6 of them. So working Demolition, that's Tyler's thing right there. That'll be Tyler when I'm long and gone. We'll be selling all this stuff behind me.
Probably be selling it to me.
It would definitely be Demolition and just a normal regular match. And I actually just saw an interview that Smash did, and it was great because he was talking about their ring music. I mean, their ring music was amazing. Here comes the Act, here comes the Smasher, we're Demolition, Walking Disaster, Made in Destruction's our middle name. Was just so iconic. I know. I'm a mark. I know.
I love it. I love it.
So the cool part is like, as a kid in the arena, you're listening to that and everyone sang it. You yelled it out loud. So they had the music part. They heard the music part. And then Jimmy Hart came up to them and said, hey, we have words now. It's really cool. You're going to love it. And they were like, yeah, okay, whatever. The first time they heard their music with words was going to the ring.
Wow.
They said they stopped in the aisle and listened to it. And the guys they were working in the ring were kind of like in there going like this to the music. So the really cool part was they were at this convention we just did last weekend in Waverly, Ohio. So I went over, and, I'm talking to them, and we were talking about that. And it was great because they both went like this. They were like, yeah, look, talking about it, we're getting goosebumps. Like, that was such an amazing moment. So I guess it's almost full circle because not only is it someone I grew up watching that I really, really liked, but now that they're friends of mine and I can call them friends, and we sit there, and the cool part is like when we first started doing the conventions and everything, we would go to them. And then we were late getting to the show only because the time our flight got in, it was an hour drive, whatever. So the convention started at like noon. I think we got there at like 1. But they saw us and got up and came over to say hi to us, which I know it's going to sound kind of diva-ish, but
no. Speak freely.
But for them to do that, you go, wow, like that's just amazing. And then, Warlord and Barbarian are same thing. Warlord and Barbarian this past week were on KNS WrestleFest on their virtual stuff that they do. They were both on. I jumped right on. I'm like, hey guys, what's going on? And they're like, as I'm texting, like we're having a conversation back and forth. It's just cool to be able to do that. But to have had the chance to have gotten in the ring with them, again, when we got in the ring against Powers of Pain and I'm circling, waiting for Barbarian to tear me apart, I'm sitting there and I look down on my arm and I was covered in goosebumps. Like it would have been the same thing. So yeah, by far, 100%, it would have been Demolition would have been who I would want that fantasy match to have been with.
So not to rub salt on the wound, and before we move on to your singles match, Frankie and I got the opportunity to work Demolition in the early 2010s, about a decade ago. Frank and I got to wrestle them for our pal Frank Goodman, Uncle Frank. And I distinctly remember, just like you said, which is so poignant and cool that you said it, we came out first, of course, as the heels. We're standing in the ring. Demolition music hits, and Frankie, who was always stone-faced, like not break character, just nudges me with his elbow and holds his arm up, and he's covered in chills, goosebumps.
Awesome. It's
yeah,
awesome.
So,
another good
Chazzer, what about?
Hold on.
What's that?
Another good one would have been the Steiners. Now, we were actually scheduled to, and I actually just got done writing about this in my book. We were actually supposed to wrestle them in Smoky Mountain. Cornette did this huge show. I think it was like World Series of Wrestling, or it was something like that was the name of it, in Knoxville, Tennessee. And Glenn and I were supposed to work them. Then for some odd reason, they pulled out, which
Oh.
actually benefited us because at first we were disappointed. Cornette's like, yeah, I know it's kind of disappointing. He goes, but he goes, now you guys can have a regular match. And not only were we had a great match with Flash Flanagan and Chris Michaels. Not only was it a great match, but then we got to go over and we got to use the powerbomb leg drop. We used the stage dive. But obviously, if we were working the Steiners, it would have been great to have been in the ring with the Steiners, but it wouldn't have been the same match because we would have had to do whatever Rick and Scott wanted to do. We obviously we weren't going to go over. Obviously, there was no powerbomb leg drop. There's probably no double team moves at all. They probably would just wanted to squash us, but we weren't able to do that. And the cool part is they were at the convention this past weekend, and as they're leaving, Rick Steiner stopped the table. So we have our beanie hats. I should have grabbed them. We have our beanie hats that has the Headbanger logo on it that we sell, and it was freezing there. So we'll be able to sell them there. And Rick Steiner stops at the table and he goes, "Hey guys, how much you selling the hats for?" We're like, "For you?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm going to buy a hat." And I'm like, "No, you can take the hat." Like, he's like, "No." He goes, "It's your merchandise. You're selling it. Like, I'm going to give you what you're selling it to everyone else for." And we're like, No. We're giving it away for free." And he goes, "You're not giving it away for free." I go, "We just gave one to that lady right there. She was working for High Spots and she was the one helping us." We're like, "Didn't we give you a free hat?" She's like, "Yeah." And Rick's like, "That's really cool. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it." He puts the hat on and turns around and walks away. So
That's amazing. But Chaz, what about singles? What about your tip top of the list fantasy booking for a singles match for Headbanger Mosh?
a singles match for Headbanger Mosh. It's a good question because I never really thought about it. The first one who actually jumps out is Shawn Michaels.
Oh,
He jumps out because he just always had amazing matches. He could make me look good because Shawn that's what Shawn was good at. Brett would have been a great one to have a singles match with.
yeah.
Magnum TA, I would have loved. Now that I'm thinking, Magnum
Wow.
TA, and here's why. Just like everybody else, when Magnum TA came out, everyone loved him. He was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And my very first real match I had down at the Monster Factory, I purposely did a belly-to-belly suplex because of Magnum TA.
Wow, look, I had no idea. All these years I've known you, I had no idea you were such a big Magnum TA fan.
I was. And then, when I go up to him and, you see him at conventions now because of his accident, he's in the wheelchair and everything. But yeah, the first time I met him, I told him that. I'm like, and I'm sure he's heard it from hundreds of people before, but literally in that first match, I did a belly-to-belly suplex because of Magnum TA, because that was his finisher. And he would get in there and he would lock up, he'd grab the guy belly-to-belly, boom, match is over in 30 seconds. To me, I was like, that's just masterful. You're not wasting any time.
Chance, would you say that is one of the biggest lamenting what ifs situations in the history of pro wrestling? Would you say Magnum TA is up there?
Yeah, because if you know anything about that era, like he was the next one to get that push.
Yeah, he was poised.
He was poised to take that Ric Flair spot and get that big push and be the big baby face and be on top. And yeah, and it changed everything when that happened. It was one of the A&E stories. He was on it, or one of the A&E stories I was watching, and they were talking about it. Maybe it was the Dusty one.
I was just about to say, I think it was Dusty.
It was Dusty's. That was a big deal because then it turned back because Dusty was kind of like, all right, I need to take time off. Or I could have this wrong, but I think it was Dusty was like, I need to take some time off. Then Magnum had his accident. He's like, oh, wait, now I can't take time off because there's no one. I'm the guy. And he was kind of trying not to be the guy so he could take some time off. I think that's what it was.
Man, but I can only fathom where the trajectory of the wrestling business, and especially him being that particular brand of babyface. The people, he was red hot. The people loved him. The stuff he did with Mr. Wrestling and just everything he touched at that time just seemed to be on a path of being turned to gold. And then in the blink of an eye, it got ripped away. One thing I eventually did want to do with you, Chaz, is talk fantasy booking, but removing removing ourselves from the situation. So like a match that you as a person who was passionate about wrestling, as a person that came up a fan, obviously you talked about coming up a big Demolition fan in your youth. Is there a match that you always like hungered for, that you wished would have happened, that maybe it was on the brink of transpiring, that you never got, that you feel would have been in a perfect world if we had a time machine or a magic wand, a match you would have liked to see?
Like what two guys I would like to have seen work each other, or me
Yeah.
in that match? Just
No,
two
no,
guys.
two other guys or two other tag teams as a fan.
Huh.
Because obviously there's stuff like Undertaker and Sting, Goldberg and Stone Cold Steve Austin, you know,
I think that
Eddie
match would have
Guerrero.
been terrible. Stone
Boy,
Cold Goldberg would be awful, and not because of Stone Cold either. Not because of Stone Cold at all. Because he's a great worker. Was a great worker. Trying to think. You're hitting me with all these questions I don't have time to think about.
Yeah, that's why. But that's I like to put you on the spot because the answer is organic. Even if the answer is I don't know, I don't
Yeah.
know. It's such a serious question to consider.
Yeah, I don't. Off the top of my head, I don't know, because I'm trying to think of like what superstars or even guys that never, because there's so much, crisscross. There wasn't a lot of crisscross back then.
What do you think? How do you think an Undertaker versus Sting match would have played out, Chaz? And what era ideally do you think that it would have been the best to pull the trigger on something like that?
I think it would have been better before Sting was the Crow. I'm not a fan of Sting as the Crow. I don't know. The character was kind of dark. The Sting before then, was he was just big baby. I mean, I know he's a baby face as the Crow, but just with the hair and just with a little bit of face paint, he was so jacked. I didn't like the coat, the trench coat, and all that. And it just wasn't the same work as he did before, in my opinion. So I think Sting, when he was Sting, not the Crow, Undertaker would have been a lot better, because the Undertaker could go. And one of the things, the Undertaker learned over the years was how to sell for smaller guys and bigger guys in a different way, which is why he had, such longevity with what he did. So yeah, so that would have been a good one, but Sting before, not now.
Well, yeah, talking about Magnum TA and Sting, where would you personally rank Sting among some of Ric Flair's greatest adversaries and opponents? Because he had a pretty good run against the Nature Boy, and their championship matches are legendary. Would you put Sting up there in the top 3, top 5?
Oh, top 5 easy. Oh yeah, top 5 easy. Yeah, Sting Flair matches. Yeah, that had to be top 5 easy.
Do you have a favorite Flair opponent, Chaz? Just between us girls?
No, not really, because again, where I got introduced to Flair was more. I didn't get a lot of, I lived in the Northeast, so it was all WWF, WWE. I got a little bit of like TBS stuff on a Saturday. I didn't have cable at first, so it was more. I literally went to, and you're going to laugh at this, West Coast Video to rent VHS tape. And I saw, and that's kind of how I got introduced to like NWA, AWA. Wasn't through watching it on TV, because again, I didn't have cable as a kid. My parents never got cable in the house, even when cable came out. So I didn't get cable until I moved out. They didn't want us watching TV. We had a regular TV. You had to get up and turn the knob. Yeah. So, I didn't have that. So I wasn't privy to a lot of that stuff. Like, for me, I know Dusty Rhodes, back in that day now, but my more familiarity with Dusty Rhodes was when he came out with polka dots.
With the polka dots, yes.
But that was WWE. So,
yes.
I remember one of the first tag matches I saw was, again, watching it on video that I got at West Coast Video, was the scaffold match with Rock and Roll Express and Midnight Express.
Oh.
And I was like, scaffold match? What is this? I was intrigued because it was a scaffold match. I had no idea what that was. So I rented the tape so I could watch the scaffold match, because I was all excited because my parents bought me I had a little TV, and then the next year they bought me a VCR for Christmas. So during Christmas break, I rode my bike back and forth to West Coast Video to rent wrestling videos to watch. That's what I did.
Now, I love Jim Cornette. Obviously, you have a long storied history with Corny. But one thing I'll never understand, and obviously you will correct me if I'm wrong. Corny is very opinionated. Some people say he's antiquated in his beliefs and he's out of touch. But for a guy that comes down on the furniture matches and hardcore and all that stuff, scaffold matches, really? You don't want guys using trash cans and tables, but a scaffold match is okay? Like,
I don't have an answer to that other than if you don't want to hear the truth, you don't want to hear that Cornette's opinion, don't ask him the question. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe the scaffold match wasn't his idea. Maybe he didn't have a say in it. I mean, Jim was young back then, so it's not like he was a promoter back then, and so he was young in his career, and he may not have liked it. But again, you're told what to do, you go ahead and do it. Cornette and Smoky Mountain, would there have been a scaffold match? I don't know. If it would have drawn a lot of money, there probably would have been a scaffold match. I'm just saying.
Is there a gimmick match? Speaking of fantasy booking, Chazzer, is there a stipulation or a gimmick match that you wish you could have competed in personally?
I want to be in any match that doesn't have weapons. I can't stand those matches.
Really?
I don't. Let me rephrase. It's not that I can't stand them. I enjoy watching them. I personally don't want to get hit with objects. I don't like it. It hurts. I don't want to get busted open. I don't want to have my eyeball hanging down here because someone clipped me right here with something. We actually did a street fight match on an indie. And I said to Glenn, I'm like, what the fuck? Like, I'm sorry, but we shouldn't be in street fight matches. We shouldn't be getting hit with trash cans and street signs and kendo sticks. Like, I don't want to get hit with stuff. I don't want to go through a tape. We're at our point in our career. Like, I don't want to do that. But anyway, we're in this street fight match for the tag team. And I'm not saying the company because I'm just not saying it. We're in this street
fight match. Do you remember we did one?
Yeah. And I probably did the same thing that I'm about to say. I remember I'll hit somebody, but the problem is I don't want to get hit back. So therefore, I don't want to hit you because I'm a big believer of I'm not going to do anything to you that I don't want done to me. So Glenn and the other guy are on the floor beating the shit out of each other with crutches. There's a shopping cart. There's trash cans. And I grab the guy in the ring. Headlock, whoop, take over. And we're sitting there. And he goes, what are we doing? And I said, pick your head up. He picked his head up. I go, we're going to watch these two idiots over here beat the shit out of each other.
Yeah.
So we literally in a hold for a good 3-4 minutes while they're beating the shit out of each other because no one's watching us. So then I said, all right, work your way up. He goes, what are we doing? Tackle, drop down, hip toss, on drag, drop kick. Let's go.
Yeah, which is funny because a few years ago, I got ribbed relentlessly by Chaz for all our listeners because I'm notoriously bad at talking to girls. So I'm okay. I'm on the mic. I know people will say, Simon, you're one of the best talkers, but talking to girls, I'm terrible. And I asked a girl, my pickup line was if she liked books because I panicked. That following weekend, I had to wrestle Chaz and Glenn in Orlando. I'm on my way to the ring, and suddenly I feel whack, and I hit the ground, and it's Chaz and it's Glenn beating me to death with encyclopedia. You bastards.
Listen, we didn't beat Frankie with dildos. He loved those. Sorry, that was
I remember you and Frank are in a headlock in the ring. Glenn broke 3 of my ribs in that match. And he's hitting me with chairs. He's lighting me up to the point where I get into the locker room and I'm like, am I going to fight Glenn? Like he was shooting on me. Like my ribs are broken. Like what the, like, did I do something wrong? And you guys come through the curtain. You pat me on the back, ask if I'm okay, and keep walking. Glenn comes through, and I go, hey, like, did I do something? Are we mad? And he gets right in my face. and then kisses me on the forehead and said, "I was testing you, kid. Good job." And he walks off. And as he's leaving, I'm like, "Could you have tested me without breaking my ribs?"
Right. So the great part about this whole thing, and Glenn loving the hardcore stuff, he loves being in those matches. I want nothing to do with those matches. Is WrestleMania, they did the hardcore battle royal.
Boy.
We're in the hardcore battle royal. There's all kinds of weapons being used. Glenn gets his chance to be the hardcore champion for 35 seconds in this match. And you know what he used as a finisher? And I think he pinned Pete Gas.
Yeah.
A clothesline on the floor.
That was your big shot.
WrestleMania. A clothesline on. Yes.
Please tell him you have never let him live it down.
He probably doesn't even remember it.
Wow. Wow. But Chaz, one thing I do want to remember before we sign off, because we've only got a couple more minutes left, is today. December the 18th, Chaz, is a day that will live forever in my heart, because today is the birthday of my spirit animal. 60 years old, if I'm not mistaken. I believe he turned 60 today. It is the birthday of the Texas Rattlesnake, the toughest SOB in the WWE, Stone Cold Steve Austin. It's also Trish Stratus and RVD's birthdays, but we're talking about Steve right now, a guy that you have been up and down the roads with, a guy that you have appeared in front of crowds with, a guy that assisted in one of the biggest victories of your career.
He did. Yeah, so that was that's obviously my Stone Cold highlight is Ground Zero. I don't want to say it was a blessing in disguise that he broke his neck, but if he didn't sustain that injury, we would have never been in that match. And who knows if we ever would have became WWF Tag Team Champions.
But how awesome is that to say for you? Like,
it's awesome. And then, and then to talk about the finish, like the way the finish happened, we're setting up the stage dive. Davey pulls Glenn's foot. Glenn goes down on the ropes, and Owen, is now flips me over, and he's going for the sharpshooter. And I'm looking like this at the corner to see when Steve was getting in the ring, and like I needed to see, you could hear it when he got in the ring, and I just see him going like this behind Owen, just waiting, and I kicked Owen off, and there's the stunner. I'm getting goosebumps telling you about it.
Yeah, me too.
There's the stunner, and then I sit up and I'm looking all around, and it's so funny because I'm looking all around. I look at Owen and I go, "All right, let me go over." And 1, 2, look, full goosebumps, arms and legs. Yeah, and 1, 2, 3, and then just that was the highlight for me, obviously, because that's one of my most favorite matches, obviously, I've ever had. When it was winning the belts. But let me ask you a question. What's a more important day, today or March 16th?
Oh, man.
And for those of you who don't understand March 16th, we're talking 3/16.
3/16.
just whooped your ass.
So Jenny and I couldn't really recall the day that we had our first date. We just knew it was around that time. So our official dating anniversary, I asked, "Hey, can we just make it March 16th?" She was like, "Yeah, sure. Why that date?" And I'm like, "Oh, no particular reason." It wasn't until years later she was like, "You son of a bitch."
You rooked her right in. That's awesome.
I got her. But man, dude, that is awesome. And by the way, you son of a gun, you said you're pushing 60 soon. No way, man. You are a spring chicken.
I'm 53.
Yeah.
I'm pushing it soon, but
no way, dude. No way. You at 53 look better than guys that I know at 23.
Here's how I look at it. I joke around I joke around this way. There's actually something I saw the other day that made me think about this, which I'll get to in a second. I joke around. I go, mentally, I'm 26 because I play kickball, I play softball, like I still do sports. I'm very active and blah, blah, blah. Physically, some days I feel like I'm 85. That balances out to me being 53. But I saw this thing the other day. I don't remember who said it. She was talking about her parents. Maybe it was a show I was watching. I don't know. But basically said the mother was on her deathbed and basically said to her, just always live. Your heart is like you're 17 years old. It won't always be that way, but just live your life as if your heart is 17 years old with the love and life that you have to come and stuff like that. So I think about that. Like, it's just, it's all in how you act. Like, you can sit there and there's people that go, oh, I'm so old. And I'm like, oh, how old are you? You're like 45. We've been in locker rooms where kids been like lacing up their boots. They're like, oh man, it's just, I'm just sore every day. But I'm like, really, dude? How long have you been doing this? Oh, like a year? And I'm like, dude, you need to quit
Yeah,
now.
that's
Fucking get out. But to me, mentally, I'm like 25, 26 years old. I go out there, I play kickball, I run circles around people. I'm out there playing softball. People are getting cramps and pulling up hamstrings and hurt. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, I'm literally twice your age. And it's just how you live your life. I live my life as if I'm young and 25, 26 years old. It's like there's a video of Billy Gunn, who's 60 years old. And every time I see him, he's bigger and bigger and bigger. And he says the same thing. He goes, age is a number. It's how you live your life. And I don't live my life as if I'm, because if you think about it when you're younger, you know, you're 20-year-old, like my son's 20, Tyler's 20, he'll be 21 in April. He probably looks at me as 53. Oh, my dad's 53. Oh, he's old. Because you're like, oh my God, that seems so far away. But now that you're hitting like the 50 numbers, like, you're like, shit, that's not old at all. And I look at people that are like 70 and I'm like, and I see what they're doing. I'm like, 70 is not old either. It's all in your mind frame and what you do and how you deal with it.
Yeah, because I mean, I turned 39 a few months ago. And like you said, there's some days where I feel like a spring chicken, and then some days where I walk like I'm 99. But no, that mentality, I think that's something a lot of people need to hear, Chaz, which is I'm so glad you said it, because you can adapt your own vibe of how you're feeling.
The mind is such a powerful thing. You and I right now could sit here and go, oh, my arm hurts. Oh, my back hurts. Oh, this hurts. Oh, the world, look, the fucking sky's falling. It's raining. I'm like, oh, this is going to be a terrible day. Or you can just go, you know what? Today's a great day. It's raining out. Great. Look, it's watering the flowers. It's watering the grass. It's making the world more, prettier, more beautiful. But it's all in how you look at things. It's your perspective on how you look at it. Instead of having a negative mindset and just being that person that's all doom and gloom, people don't hang out with that. Like, I don't want to hang out with someone who's going to bring me down mentally. I want to hang out with someone who's going to challenge me and make me think and make me grow. I still want to grow. I want to learn. I want to do stuff. I don't want to sit back and just go, oh, I went to work today. Now I want to come home and sit on the couch and do nothing.
No, that's awesome, man. Good stuff, Chaz. Well, speaking of growing, that's all this show is going to continue doing, everybody. New episodes every Monday at 7 a.m. You can follow us on the Mosh Sez podcast show on Facebook. I'm also going to be launching our Instagram page, our Twitter/X page, and very, very soon, we will be not only returning a guest, very special names are going to be joining us for some conversation with Chaz and I, but soliciting some questions from you guys, our listener, our viewers, our supporters. If you guys could share the news about the show, we would really appreciate it, guys. Spread the word. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your friends' family that the Mosh Sez show is here for your listening pleasure.
And if you got questions, comments, put them in the comments below. Things you want us to talk about, questions or things you want to hear about me or Simon, put them in there. Let us know. We'll chit chat about it. But either way,
we do check it. We do check all the comments.
Yeah, keep watching and tell all your friends.
All right, gang.
And if you don't like us, don't tell a goddamn word. Don't say a goddamn word if you don't like us.
Yeah, they say milk is good for your teeth. You know what else is good for your teeth? Not bad mouthing the show.
All right. Great job, everyone. Thanks, Simon. We'll see you next time.
See you, gang.